what the USA Football Insurance Program has done for them and have thanked us. You don't need to thank us. You need to thank yourself, because what you have done, the commitment that you have made to your sports organizations, the commitments you've made to your communities, have made all the difference in the world. I'm just fortunate enough to be part of the youth football space in my little capacity. We're going to talk a lot about insurance, and I'm going to stay off the product because that's the easiest way to lose the crowd. But I'm going to tell stories of what we've encountered as an organization. I'm probably the largest writer of youth football insurance in the United States. That's in no part to a lot of great people, a great team, a great organization like USA Football. But we continuously find over and over and over again, and I've talked to individuals out here today, it baffles me that you're not carrying the proper insurance. Given what's happening in youth football today, it's more important than ever to carry the proper insurance. So the 5 reasons leagues don't have proper insurance. We've never experienced an injury or a lawsuit. I've heard 15 years today, I've heard 10 years today, I've heard 5 years. I've heard waivers. Let me tell you, there's a lot of you I deal with in this room. They've experienced lawsuits. They've experienced expensive lawsuits. What's expensive? 5 grand, 10 grand, 15 grand? What's going to cripple your league? When's enough's enough? It happens. Our waiver release forms will protect us. Look it up. Google it. You don't need me to sit up here and talk about it. They sometimes will be the first protection. They will sometimes get you out of a bad attorney. The reality is most of the time they don't hold up. That is a sincere reality. We have general liability insurance, but we don't need accident participant insurance. There's insufficient agents out there that are selling you liability insurance that have exclusions on them that don't cover the kids. You guys have spent your lives involved in youth sports to protect and grow the sport of football, but you're not actually protecting the kids. The ones who need it the most, they're not protected. They're selling you, insurance agents are selling you spectator liability policies, which are only covering spectators that fall. It baffles me constantly that we run into these issues. Our kids have their own health insurance. Really what it should say is our parents carry their own health insurance. Guess what? How many parents are going to tell you that they're not carrying health insurance for the kids? How many? None. But yet they'll spend $300. And I know everyone comes from different backgrounds here, different financial situations. We're all trying to do what's right. You all need it. Because I can tell you, no matter what background, what your financial situation, what your parents or guardian's financial situation is, because of what's happening, because of the cost of health insurance, and think about you in your own jobs, your own day-to-day jobs. The deductibles are rising. The plans are shrinking, right? You're paying more, they're raising the deductible, and the coverage is shrinking. It just doesn't extend to you. It extends down to your children. So to not have these kids covered, it baffles me. Our volunteers provide their own liability policies. So those people that have homes and their own personal liability policies, those are tricky insurance people, those tricky insurance companies have gotten real smart given what's happening in youth sports. What they've done is they've slid in. I got to tell you, I've been in the insurance business a long time. And I probably read my homeowner's liability policy once. And since then, I haven't read it since. Right? We just expect that the coverage is there. Well, those tricky insurance companies have actually slid an endorsement. An endorsement is not a grant of coverage, it's a clarification of coverage. And a lot of these policies have basically said, we will not cover sports volunteers. We will not cover you. They don't know any different. They just expect that they can rely on it. Why do we need it? It's not doing the right thing. You constantly have heard them talk about doing the right thing here, right? I'm not here to sell you insurance. I'm not here to say you should use us. What I'm here to say is it's good for the athletes. What it means is it's good for the kids, right? It's good for their families. It's good for your coaches who volunteer. It's good for the leadership. And it's about running a prudent league, a prudent risk management league. There are leagues in here that know me very well. And there are leagues that run top notch. And there are leagues in here that know me very well and know that they've got claims. It's not just for you who have claims, because there are claims occurring on a daily basis. Risk, right? This is a very important point. Besides, we need it. So you know that thing that you guys have all dealt with in insurance, it's called the certificate of insurance. We need to name the park and rec and the school and then as an additional insured, right? There's a movement going on in legislation that they're going to push down to talk more about forcing sports leagues to buy the proper insurance. The municipalities, the government, our politicians are getting smart and saying, general liability, that's not enough. We want the kids covered too. So it is going to occur. Guess I lost my screen. Anyways, we don't need it. What does USA Football Insurance require? CGL policy, commercial general liability policy. Let's talk about what that is. Third-party bodily injury and property damage. So part of the presentation, when USA Football asked me to speak, we wanted to talk to certain leagues, your peers out there, and have them explain their story, right? It's not enough to hear from, I'm not here to scare tactic you, but they want to hear it from their mouths. The reality is there's peers in here that didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want to be embarrassed about what's happened in their leagues. They just didn't. What have we seen? We've seen those volunteers, right? That property damage claim. We've seen those volunteers who went out and started doing the right thing. Started going and spray painting the fields. The wind gust field sprays the whole line of cars in the parking lot. Who's paying for it? Right? We've seen funny claims this year. We've seen a snowstorm in one state where instead of shoveling the snow off the field, they just took a truck, plowed the field. Well, they didn't realize the field was AstroTurf. They ripped that field up nice. It happens. It happens. Third-party bodily injury, we're talking about, we're involved in a contact sport, right? Now, my daughters are involved in soccer. It's the parents, right? It's the non-controllables. It's the parents that are getting irate. It's that they're getting so jammed up. They want their kid, that everybody's the next Roosevelt Bowl, right? Or everybody's the next Tom Brady or whatever. They're focusing on it. Their adrenaline's rushing. There's things occurring behind the scenes that you can't control, and there's claims that are occurring. It's happened time and time again. Why do we name USA as an additional insurer? Because you know what? USA has spent their lives educating you, us, everyone. And we name them as an additional insured because the good work that they're doing shouldn't have them brought in. You buy your policies from us. You buy them from your current agent. You buy them. If they're unwilling to name USA Football as an additional insured, you're not with the right company. I didn't write that. Upload an additional insurance certificate on USA Football. But it is a requirement for youth flag leagues and they talked a little bit about flag. We run a lot of leagues. I think at this point we're running over 400,000 kids. But it's a requirement. It's about doing the right things. Secondary medical insurance. This one's a tough one for me, though, because this is where the bulk of the claims happen. So 1 out of 3 leagues in this room will have a secondary medical insurance claim. 1 out of 3. It is what it is. USA Football wants a $25,000 secondary medical. So what is secondary medical? Basically, it picks up where primary medical doesn't. Where primary medical, when that insurance gets constricted, it picks up where that left off. What happens if that parent who told you they had health insurance doesn't have health insurance anymore? It becomes the primary insurance. It's there as the backstop. D&O. We'll get into it a little bit later, but we strongly and have strongly recommend directors and officers. Once again, you volunteers, you guardians of the game, you sit on your boards, and that's all of you. Think you have coverage through your personal liability policies. Check again. Because volunteer sports, good chance, going to be off. We've seen misrepresentation in claims. We've seen errors and omissions by the organization. We've seen boards making decisions where 14-year-olds can scrimmage 9-year-olds. Not a great decision, guys. Claim, sue, everyone, personally, board, league, anybody they can get their hands on. Talk about what this is required in the industry. It is required in the industry. Everyone's doing it, so should you. And I understand it's a lot of it's about education. Some of it's about financial circumstance. I can't stress it enough that those leagues that say they haven't had anything in 15 years or 10 years, talk to your peers in here. Maybe they'll tell you on a side conversation. You don't need me to tell you, because I can guarantee you it's happening. It's happening a lot. USA Football's obviously set the standards. Heads Up Football. Let's talk about Heads Up Football. You've seen a lot of numbers today, so I'm not going to throw some real detailed numbers today. But the USA Football Insurance Program has doubled since its existence. Those leagues that are Heads Up Football, and I'm just not talking about Heads Up Football like kind of in, I'm talking about the leagues that are in Heads Up Football and are doing all the things associated with Heads Up Football. As that's grown over the past couple of years, the frequency of claims have gone down. So as your insurance, a lot of you guys who don't use this, keeps going up, or they're changing the deductibles, or they're constricting coverage, or they're requiring certain wording, you know who you are. We've been fortunate enough to double, while the frequency of claims have gone down. That's not because I'm a smart guy. It's because those that have decided to become educated and go all in on Heads Up Football have watched their frequency of the claims go down. In the insurance business, there's a great term that basically says frequency breeds severity. So the more frequency you have, the better chance you're going to have for a large claim, a large pop, as they like to say. For those that know that they've got a frequency issue, we're talking to you. Claims happen. That's why you buy the insurance. But I can tell you, if you buy into the Heads Up Football insurance program, if you buy into Heads Up Football, you're one of the lucky ones, because those large leagues, there's leagues out there right now that are suffering. And it's about doing it right. It's about getting it right. What is general liability? Third-party bodily injury, property damage. I'm not going to read it for you. We'll get the slides. It's those claims. It's the slips, falls, plowing the fields, fight in the stands. That's exactly what covers. There's the standards. Those are the optional coverages. Sexual abuse and molestation, that is not an optional coverage. You should always have that, right? Jerry Sandusky would have passed a Corey check 2 years ago. Look past it. Right?